Hello, folks. Hi, hello, hi. How's it going? How y'all doing? Welcome to Gouache Tuesday. It's been a few days since we last streamed, huh?
Hello. Eiffel One Love.
Hey, Harukio, thank you so much for 10 months. Almost at a year now. Big day's coming up. Thank you so much. I had forgotten that I added the emote thing. It's really fun. Yeah, every time somebody subs now, I think subs, donations, tips, things like that, those will all trigger the big emote explosion, which is super fun. Super duper fun. I love to see it. And then any regular emotes that get put in chat will also float across the screen, which is super cute. We are just about ready to roll here. I'm going through my checklist of things to do before I stream. I've got the stretch timer active. I'm recording. What else? I've got my voice in the voice thing so that my little avatar will talk. I think we're pretty much good to go. So, for the non-dominant hand art challenge, those who may not know, we have a challenge going right now where you can take inspiration, which are the points you get just for watching the streams. You can donate those to a special stream where I'll be drawing with my non-dominant hand. I found out today that if I go into the settings on Twitch, I can actually extend the timer, which is a good feature to have. Like if we're getting close and we're not quite there and we still want to do it, I can extend it by as many days, up to 30. So I added a few days back because I missed a bunch of streaming opportunity hours due to getting the vaccine on the weekend. So I've put it back up to 25 days from 17. So we've got a bit of extra time, 25 days left to get up to 750,000 channel points. That's a lot of inspiration. Hopefully we can make it. I believe in you. Y'all have done mightier things. But it's going to be a wild stream when it happens. My right hand is useless. Thankfully, I did not get any side effects from the vaccine. It was super hype, many poggers. I was expecting to. I booked off time so that I, wouldn't clash up against having to do work stuff. I made sure that I had nothing to do except lay in bed and play video games. And then I had, arm pain that night, the first night after I got the shot, which was expected. And then the next day, nothing. So very, very thankful for that, extremely. Yes, this was the second dose. So it was incredibly hyped because everyone said after the second dose, you're going to feel some side effects, very normal stuff. But nothing, which is great. Because at some point, I want to get a third dose because Pfizer said that that is a good way to protect against the variants, like the Delta variants and stuff. And I'd like to get that before I do any international traveling. So I'm very happy to know that even after the second dose, pretty much no side effect stuff. So hype for that. Definitely one of those things where it hits everyone very differently. I think the most important thing for me was to be able to just book off that time for relaxing, because even without the side effects, it was just really nice after such a long awaited appointment and medical thing to just have 2 days to do absolutely nothing, which I normally don't ever have. I'm very bad at that. I make my own hours, so I tend to work whenever I feel like working, which is mostly all the time. Because, art is my work, and it's very easy to slip back into work mode. But I forced myself to not do any work, even though I was feeling okay. And it was really nice. It was really nice just for my sort of exhaustion levels. Even the taking a break from a stream day on Saturday was really good. And it was also a chance to get out and take some photographs. So now I have more painting reference. Well-rounded lifestyle, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Easy to slip into extremes. 6 months after your second dose is when the third dose/booster might be necessary. That sounds right. That sounds right to me. Yeah, so if I crack into that near the start of next year, I think that'll be when I can start doing some traveling and stuff. And I think the borders will be more open by then as well. Hey, Triforce, how's it going? Yeah, definitely stretching the arm helped quite a bit, for sure. I tried to stay very cognizant of that. I forgot that I set it so that when the timer counts down fully, it just says the word art. I meant it to say something cool, but instead I just wrote art in all caps. So now it just says art under Eiffel Art, which feels very redundant. So I'm going to switch it over now to the desk cam, because it is art time. Art, everyone. Spam the art emote now in chat to become a part of the conversation. I'm going to do it myself. Look at all those little arts go. All right, we're going to switch over to the desk now, where you can see all those little arts in chat as well as on the screen. Everything looks good. Everything looks set up properly. I'm going to change my gain just a bit so that the paper is more white on camera. That looks good. Okay, we're working with a big piece of paper today. I decided not to cut this one down and instead just kind of keep it in its full form. I'm using the Arches hot-pressed watercolor paper today. This is what the pad of it looks like. I'm almost through this pad now. There is... how many pages left? There's only one. No, wait, there's two. I've got 2 pages left. One of these is already earmarked for a commission that I'm going to be doing later this week. I'll be starting on anyway, which I'm really excited about. And if you are part of the Discord, !Discord in the chat if you would like to get the link to join our Discord, where we all hang out together. There's an art references section on there where I have posted an art reference. It was a photograph that I took actually when I was at the clinic getting the vaccine. This was taken from the car. Just a nice shot of a rural church a few towns away with some lovely summertime greenery around it. And that is what I would like to draw today. I wanted to do something with a bit of architecture, but also, it's summertime. It's hard to get away from wanting to just paint big, beautiful trees and skies and clouds all the time. So we're going to do a bit of both. I'm going to really just roughly sketch in some stuff here. The stretch timer is set today. Eventually, I would like to, and now I know that I can with the Stream Elements countdown thing, I'll eventually put the stretch timer on screen. Not with the big scary Google alert thing, because I know that freaked some people out, but just the countdown itself. Maybe with a cute animation. There's a couple of fun templates that I was looking at where you can have something animate and then slowly move toward a thing on a timeline. So I might have my little stretching guy slowly move toward the stretch countdown, which I think would be very cute. Or maybe slowly rise up from the bottom of the screen. So when it comes to this reference, if you're looking at it as well in the Discord, there is a big parking lot area down at the bottom. I don't really want a lot of that in the picture. What I'm mostly focused on is the sky, the skyline with the trees and the church itself. So the church I'm going to just very vaguely block in. We've got a lot of real estate here. It's a very big piece of paper. Cognos, thank you so much for 5 months.
1 more month until Cool Sunglasses Bear.
That's right. You are almost the Cool Sunglasses Bear. Very exciting. Thank you so much for subscribing. Now I've got to think about kind of the structures behind the structures when it comes to architecture. One of my weak points is architectural things. So I'm just focusing on the bigger shapes, the larger elements, and also the faces of light and darkness. So I want that sort of central spire. And then the buildings behind. So what I'm actually going to do is kind of a... What are they called in the art world? Like a contour drawing. I want to draw where the shadows are. Just kind of sketch out where the shadows are. And then use those bigger shapes to inform what comes next. Because you know me, I love to be a little impressionistic, a little loose. I think that leads to some of the more energetic imagery. But at the same time, it's architecture, so we'll try to keep the lines somewhat straight. I do have my Ninja Turtles ruler in case I do need to do some real straight lines here. So can pull that in when need be. Oh yeah, from a distance, I guess that paw does kind of look like a big yelling mouth, doesn't it? Again, I don't really care too much about the details yet in this area. I just care that it's a shadow face. Then we've got trees here and up here. And there's a big old tree shape over there. And there are shadows in these areas here. Now I love this particular bush right here, this really, really big plant, because it's got super dark shadows. Like the shadows are almost black. And they're in front of the light face of the building. So when it comes to big contrasts like that, I really want to focus in and capture those. Over here we've got another big tree. Not getting the detail, just getting the overall form. And then another big one here. This. And then it's Shadow City all throughout this tree. And the beautiful thing with the water-soluble pencils is a lot of these lines we can erase if we decide later on that we want to move something in the painting stage. No problemo. Can absolutely do that. Just got to apply a bunch of water, and that'll melt right away. And these lovely arched windows here. I'm trying not to look too deeply at the details. I want to look at them at a glance, and I can always zoom in later if I really want to get a deeper look, but it's better for me anyway to work from an impression so that I can capture the essence of what I see and not, try to really overanalyze anything. I more want to capture the feeling. But there is a really, really beautiful ornate window here. Hey, Sourpuss, how's it going? Hello, Raiders. Welcome in. Make yourselves at home. I hope you're doing well. How was the stream? How you doing? Now up here it's gonna be cloud central. Bringing the cute peeps, well, I appreciate that. Hello, cute peeps. Love to see all those lemons in the chat. Hello, hello, hello. And again, more detail, more ornate windows over here. We're not worried about that. Just want to get the shadow area. That's the most important thing. Down here, more trees, more shadow form. We want the shadows building up to that light sky and then a divide between, because over here, the light sky color is actually going to cut in and be this big sort of open idea. It's open to density. Harukio, it doesn't let you customize the emotes in the emote explosion, which is a bummer, because I mostly wanted it to just be bears. But it's kind of just everything from like the global emotes, which is fine. I still think it looks very cool. The pencil I'm using is an almost destroyed. It's an Aquarel. Aquarel water soluble pencil. I got these in Los Angeles, California. I only managed to pick up two. I have this one and I have a light blue one. But they're really, really good. They've lasted me a long time because I think I got them 3 years ago at this point. Bruinzeal is the specific type of Aquarel pencil design series. I got them at a Kinokuniya, I think, in Little Tokyo. Fantastic sketching pencil. And water soluble, which is great because I'm about to be putting a lot of water on here so I can get rid of certain lines that I don't want. I can keep others that I do want. I'm going to raise... So I need to raise this corner, I'm realizing now, because it makes no sense. And thus move this window over. Okay. Let's put down some paint, why don't we? It's enough messing around. Ah, Aquarel is watercolor in Dutch. That makes a lot of sense. It's very good to know. I'm absolutely sure I'm saying it wrong, if that's the case. So I've got my flat brush, which, as you know, is the one I like to use first to really establish a lot of those big areas. And then I've also, of course, got my calligraphy brush here. I'm working with the jelly gouache today, so I've got my tray of jelly gouache. Some of the cups are almost entirely gone, but I can always offset it with my regular Winsor & Newton designer gouache. I'm going to be going in with a palette knife. Now, where did you put my palette knife, chat? Oh, there it is. Okay, I've got my palette knife, and I've got some paper towel. Which I can use to just wipe off the knife in between colors, because I don't want to cross-contaminate all of them immediately. There'll be a lot of that later on, of course. So the main colors that I want for this piece, I want big, bold, beautiful blue. So I'll grab this blue here. Using a lot of this, not only for the sky, but also for the shadows. There's going to be a lot of bright summertime atmosphere, and that means dense air, which means blue in the shadows, especially in the distant areas. Now, where you got the blue and you're making trees, you of course also need the yellow. We'll be mixing a lot of green colors. We'll be using some straight green right out of the jelly cups here, but we'll also be mixing greens so that we can get lots of notice. Hey, we've got another raid coming in. Hello, raiders. Kaio Kenneth, hello, hello, welcome in. Hi, raiders. Make yourselves at home. We are just about ready to dip into painting a lovely little landscape here. And yes, reference is posted in the Discord, !Discord, if you would like to get the link to join. I always like to post my art references in there when I'm doing a stream. Okay, we've got our green, we've got our yellow and blue. We've definitely got enough to make a sky and a tree. When it comes to the building, we want warmer colors in there as sort of an offset. So I'm thinking we'll mostly stick to a light kind of burgundy purple. And luckily, the Jelly Gouache provides. We've got some right here. Well, I'm so very glad that you were able to stop by. How was your stream? Okay, we've got some white. I'm gonna dip into my earth tones here. Not only because I want straight up earth tones in the church over there, but also because earth tones plus blue makes a great dark shadow color that you get full like heat control on. You can make it a cool or you can make it a warm. I was trying to think what the opposite of cool was. Machi. I'm gonna get some golden as well as some straight red, and that's pretty much gonna be the color composition of this entire piece. Now these colors here are not really going to be used just straight out the tube. They're mostly going to be used as like dullening elements. I can mix them in to change the color to take some of the saturation out, which, believe it or not, we want to do sometimes, especially for things in the distance. All right. And now we're ready to party. So I've got my 1-inch flat brush here. I'm just going to get some water on it. And y'all know that I love to start with the skies. So we're going to go with some clean water. And I'm going to grab the whole board. This is why I like taping it to a board instead of just straight to the desk. It's because I can control the gravity. Because of course this water is going to want to roll down. And gravity's your friend when you're working with watercolors. Because basically the way the paint works is, it's little pigment beads held in a suspension. The water helps that suspension move around the paper, and if you pull it at an angle, then it's going to roll downhill, and all of those beads are going to get distributed evenly. And that's how you get a nice clean wash. I'm using the Arches hot pressed watercolor paper, which is a very, very smooth watercolor paper. It's a bit different than what most people might be used to. Also, the stretch timer alarm is going off right now, so I'm going to make it stop beeping at me. And it's actually really good timing because we want that first dose of water to soak into the paper first, and then we can start painting after we put a second dose of water on the page. So I'm going to restart the stretch timer, and we're going to take a stretch. It's going to stand and get our stretch on right now. That feels good. First stretch of the stream. All right, get back to it. So that water is now pretty much soaked in. So now I'm going to get a mixture of white and blue for that sky. Now, when we're painting the sky, I want to paint a cloud in there. I didn't sketch it in because I'm just going to kind of cut around where I want the cloud to be. That's going to be right up here. Now, I want to be careful on the light edge of the building, but when it comes to the dark edge, you'll see that I just kind of cut right into it. Like over on this side, it does not matter as much. But there's a light edge on the roof, where I do want to be a little careful. And also on the light side of these trees is going to be pretty important. But on the dark side, it doesn't matter as much. Well, thank you so much, Ken Moose. I really appreciate that. So now I'm taking my calligraphy brush and I'm just using clean water. The only thing I'm doing with it. And then I'm drying it off on my blotting paper. And when I do that, it just takes some of the paint off of the page, kind of wicks it up a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to mix a quick shadow color for this cloud. So I'm going to take a little bit of that magenta. I'm going to take that blue sky color, of course, and the white. And even a little tap of the black. All right. So now I've got the sky basically laid in here. I want to lay in some of the bright, especially because I have blue on the palette currently, I'm going to lay in some of those bright leaf colors. I'm going to grab a lot of this white and yellow. And put in some of the very brightest leaves. So I'm building out a lot of those big shadows that are happening in the trees themselves. Now, it's not a lot of the detail work that we'll be doing later on, because once I start getting into the weeds, so to speak, on the details in the trees, it's going to be a lot of small shapes of bright contrast interacting over top. I'm going to be doing some negative painting, painting the dark areas around the light, and also painting some light areas into those dark spots to make them actually look like individual leaves. But right now we want kind of the gradient of light into shadow. And I guess one way of putting it is we're painting the gradient of the lightest leaves. So even though we're putting light to dark, it's still light to dark within the context of the lightest forms. If that makes sense. Hey, Nadroz, it's going pretty good. Just hanging out, doing some painting on a Tuesday. What's better than this? Some of these areas I can't really lay in any shadows until they dry a bit more. It's going to be a matter of just going back to them a little later on once the paint has had some time to settle down. And then I can put in some really dark colors and really light colors. But the trick is you have to let it dry first. Otherwise, the colors are just going to get muddier and muddier because you're mostly adding a lot of extra water. Oh, that's so nice, Ash. Really appreciate that. It's been nice finally putting the videos up on YouTube. My goal by fall, because I'm always setting goals, it's important. Even if you don't meet them, just to try and stay motivated. But my goal for the fall is to finally start doing edits of some of my VODs. Some of the more like elaborate paintings or interesting subjects that I've painted on stream. Chop them up and then do a special bespoke voiceover describing more of my in-depth process. And hopefully that'll be helpful for folks who are maybe trying to paint for the first time and figure out some of these techniques. Okay, let's clean up the palette here, and then I'm going to move over to the church. I'm going to grab my tube of permanent white gouache. Actually get a bit more on the palette here. I'm going to switch back over to my flat brush for some of these larger faces here. Now, in order to really push the idea of the brightness of the scene, I'm going to stick with colors that are lighter than they actually appear to me in the picture. I'm going to go in with this really, really bright blue, purple, white. And this is going to be our roof color. Across all of the very brightly lit roof surfaces. Now, as usual, when you're painting in a light color and you know that there's a dark color going beside it, you don't have to be super careful about, staying in the lines or whatever. You can just go for it because you know that you'll be covering the other area with a darker color, so it's going to go on top anyway. But when you're next to a light surface, you do need to take some caution. I'm going in with a bit of a thicker mixture here to cover up some of those pencil lines underneath. There we go. And now for the face color of the building, I'm going to get some red, I'm going to get some orange and yellow, and a whole lot of white. Hey, Kate, how's it going? And again, we're trying to mix to a color that's a lot lighter. For these surface faces here. Oh yeah, you've got the mysterious bear for the 2 months. Tell me about these plants. Whoa, mystery boxes of plants? That sounds wild. Now I want to use a much deeper green for the other side of this picture. Kind of thinking, just because this is the direction that the light is like hitting in, so there's a lot of shadows being cast this way, and these trees are kind of engulfed in shadow mostly. So even for the light color, I'm going to go darker than on this side. So you notice that what I'm doing on this side is actually stroking only in one direction because I want all of the shadows. I want it to feel like the light is physically moving across these trees. It's not easy to remember to do. Because my instinct, especially when painting foliage, is to make it random, you know, to like move the brush, turn it in different directions in order to get realistic looking foliage. But if you just keep going in the same direction, it'll actually look like the shadows are cascading, which is a very cool look, in my opinion. And this is what they do at Studio Ghibli. They don't do it quite as clumsily as I do. Okay, I think it's finally time to start adding the shadow color on the church, which is the part I was dreading the most. I'm going to pick the best approach. I think I'm going to go with just a clean purple mixture. So I'm going to mix into the shadow color that I've been using for the trees. Oh, but before I do that, it is time for another stretch break. Hey, Rod,
Whoop,
thank you so
whoop.
much. Whoop, whoop. Thank you. I always forget that there's a little robot voice thing after most of this. Good stuff. Hey, welcome to the stream. I'm glad you were able to make it. Feels good to block in the shadow color. Now there's other select places in this picture where the shadows are about as dark. So I'm just going to use the shadow color that we already have on the brush and fill in some of those spots. Places like here in the shadow of the window. Make sure that my brush is flattened out before I attempt to do these. Is even working at this size. Some of these lines are awful thin. The water is currently blue, thanks to rinsing in it, even on the clean water side. Alright, back to those trees now. Let's get up in there and add some more depth to these colors. This yellow, the warm colors always seem to be the ones that want to harden the fastest. I'm going to try to re-wet this yellow so it stays in place, for one thing. But also I want more bold colors in the foliage over here. You see on this side, I've got it pretty much to where I want it. Now I'm going to try to bring these other trees in line. I do still want them to be a little bit brighter and a little bit paler, but definitely more yellow. These are the ones that are being hit full by the sun. And just like on this side, we want to have that direction of the sunlight. We're going to try to build that into the brush strokes here. It's gonna look weird at first. Hey, Abby, how's it going? Enjoy this emote explosion. Dizzle Lizzle, thank you so much for 4 months. I really appreciate that.
Eiffel 1 heart.
Eiffel 1 heart, indeed. Thank you. And hello. Hello, Raiders. Welcome in. We're back at it once again. I'm back and fully vaxxed. Feeling more powerful than ever. And we've got a big old painting on the go today. Hello, Abby. How you doing? How was your stream? Did you win? Did you defeat the Dark Soul? I saw you were doing that DLC. It was a perfect stream. Perfect. Articulation exercises. I feel like I tried to over-articulate that as I was saying it. Articulation exercises. That's fun. I feel extra hyped up after watching the stream last night and talking about Outer Wilds, because I'm definitely going to play that on stream now. I've never gotten a chance to experience that game, and there's DLC for it coming out next month, so I think next month we're going to have an Outer Wilds stream, or several. I can't imagine I'll beat it in one playthrough, one sitting. But if you're interested in some very chill Outer Wilds exploration, that is my plan. Everyone who's played it has said what a wonderful experience it is, and how unique, which is really fun. Well, I'll brace myself for any intense moments. I know that it has to do with space and flying around, so I assume most of the intensity comes from crashing into things or getting hurt. So I'll be ready. I'm so excited to add deep dark shadows to all of these trees. They're gonna pop so much once I do that. have streamed games occasionally from time to time. I did a little Minecraft. Back when I first started streaming, I did have the occasional video game time. I did a really fun series called Game & Gouache, where I would play a little bit of a game and then I would paint something based on what I played. And I've been thinking about bringing that back, toying with it. Yeah, maybe I'll get some fun graphics together and resurrect that series. If for nothing else, just the title is very good. It should be used for something. Now I want some big, bold shadows in here, so I'm going to go in and dot in some more extreme shadows. I've also done Plein Air of the Wild, where I ran around in Breath of the Wild and painted in real time, like actually standing at a location in-game, which sometimes was a little harrowing because monsters can just run around and smack you. That series was also very, very fun. Something I would like to do again. I've been thinking a lot about Breath of the Wild recently. It's just one of those games I love existing in. You know? Oh yes, a reminder that we do have the community challenge for the non-dominant hand stream going right now. As you watch, you're going to get those channel points, and you can spend those on the community challenge. We're trying to get 750,000 points, which is a lot. But I'm very, very excited. My right hand is completely useless. You've seen I barely used it this entire stream. And if we meet that goal, I am going to do an entire stream where I only use my right hand. I'm not allowed to use my left at all. And I don't know how it's going to go. I'm going to do multiple mediums with it too, marker stuff and paint as well. Like even the thought of taking the brush and dipping it in the water effectively with my right hand is like, how would I even... So, if that's any indication of how it's going to go, it's going to be wild. Oh yeah, that actually reminds me. Sorry, I just had to quickly go over and make Pluta a mod. I'd been thinking about doing it for a while. Alright, time to add some deep, dark shadows. Let's absolutely go. I'm gonna grab some reds, some blues. Get some ultramarine in here as well. Absolutely, Pluta. You're an upstanding member of the Bear Society. Yes, and also you won't get banned accidentally now. Now we're at the point where we can finally start really putting those tiny leaf details in. Getting the whole thing really cooking here. It's nice to have large areas to focus on in the picture because, you know, over here in the shadows of the church, it's sort of an area that I need to have completely dry before I can do anything else with it. So it's nice to have these big sections of trees that I can just go back to and mess around with while I wait for that other thing to dry. So there's always something that I can be working on. Because even in large areas like this, I needed that to be completely dry before I could start going in and adding these deep shadows. Otherwise, like I said earlier, it would be very muddy. Because you're just adding water on top of water. And those shadows do not look good. Ooh, stretch break time. Yes, this is of somewhere very particular. This was taken from the parking lot of the place where I was getting my vaccine on the weekend. So it's a church near where I live. All right, let's stretch it up, stretch style. All right, let's mix a bit of that red and green. Bit of that ultramarine and burnt umber. Get those deep, dark shadow colors cooking here. And I'm just letting the colors kind of go wherever they want to go at the bottom of this piece. Because as I said before, I don't really want to paint the parking lot. Like, that's not really part of my compositional inspiration for this one. It's more the tree line and the sky and how they interact with that church form with the light face and the dark face here. So instead, I'm just going to let it kind of blur naturally on its own. I'm just using a combination of some lighter tones of yellow and green. Just letting it flow. Exactly. Parking lot is not aesthetic. And once this dries, we'll be able to put a lot more dark shadow color in that area. But we need it to dry now, so of course we're going to go back and work on the church some more, because now this is all very dry. Now for these tiny details, we've got our little friend, the rigging brush, who is very tiny, very long bristles, and is great for tiny little linear detail. So let's pick some good colors here. I'm gonna mostly go with light warm colors. I can mix it into this green that we already have on the palette just for some extra texture here, but I'm gonna get the yellows and the browns, these warm colors that are still on the palette, and I'm gonna mix those through with just a whole lot of white paint. Mostly because with gouache, if you add that to your gouache or your watercolor, it will add opacity. So the ability to cover the stuff that's below. And as you can see, I've kind of painted over what are going to be details here on the shadow side. So I actually need that opacity. Now here we're going to test out just how bright these surfaces are. For a lot of these, we'll be going for a pretty pure, just white coverage, because we went way lighter on the colors for contrast effect than actually appear in the photo. But then for the darker side, I will need this deeper blend. And I could spend my entire life fussing over these tiny little details, trying to get them perfect. But I've got a lot of living to do, so I'm not going to fret too much over the perspective and stuff. Hey, how's it going? Well, thank you so much, Caleb. Okay, now definitely just pure white for the window surroundings. Up here we're starting to get into these ornate church windows, so this should be interesting. But lately I'm basically trying to get myself to focus more on some architectural aspects. It's always been a weak spot for me. But trying to capture it in my way, you know? Because ultimately, when it comes down to skill set, it's like, what do you need it for, right? And for me, if I need it for my paintings, then it should be the Eiffel art approach. Because otherwise, you know, I'm getting a commission especially, could just hire an architect. But instead, it needs to be unique to me. It needs to have my look. That said, I still want the fundamentals and the quick hand, and that only comes from practice. There's no other way around it. Now, one thing I'm trying to do with this piece is not micromanage the details, so I'm not zooming in to the picture, and therefore I kind of have to guess with a lot of these ornate little details in the window what the pattern actually is. A lot of it can just be implied, just brief little flicks here and there. And then we'll go in with a deeper color later and add in some shading. And that'll help the whole thing become instantly a bit more three-dimensional. Okay, now on the shadow side, I'm going to use a watered down version of this sort of coffee cream color here. The reason why I want to use it slightly watered down is to lower the opacity. Probably still going to dry pretty light. but it's certainly going to look a whole lot lighter than it will actually dry. That's the nature of gouache. I'm going to add a bit more of that sky color to it, water it down a little bit more. And with about 15 minutes left to go in our painting session today, I am firmly in the beginning to daydream about supper phase. I think today it's going to be pasta. How do I dispose of the water when I'm done? Right down the kitchen sink. I would normally pour chemicals and things like that. But I'm always very careful and very cautious, and this is important, to wash the sink when you're done. Because obviously you don't want to cross-contaminate. I also try not to splash too much when I'm pouring the water down. I do it pretty carefully. And obviously never when there's anything else in the sink. That's a recipe for disaster. Yeah, it's very water soluble. But there are some pesky chemicals in it as far as things you shouldn't ingest. So definitely if you are pouring it down the sink, just make sure there's nothing else around that you might accidentally get a few drops on or whatever. The usual safety, but it's definitely not like oils. It's not as tricky to get rid of. Ooh, chicken and dumplings. Sounds good. So I'm going to get this paper towel here, and I'm going to load up my calligraphy brush with a little bit of water. And now I'll dry it on this paper towel. And just like we did with the clouds, I'm just picking up the paint down there. Because I kind of want to have a bit of a smoky effect. I think, so watercolor and gouache, it's safer than a lot of the chemicals you're normally dumping down the drain. So in terms of overall safety for like the water treatment facility, I think it's safe. In terms of ingestion, it is not safe at all. Absolutely not. These are not like your Crayola non-toxic paints. It's not that. Especially if you're using the fancier stuff, because a lot of it contains like cadmium, which is unbelievably unsafe to ingest. So yeah, in general, if you're dumping it somewhere where you think it'll come into contact with stuff that you're going to ingest, then be very, very careful about washing everything thoroughly. That's pretty important. Never pour oils down the drain. Oh my god. Please. I actually made that mistake the first time I ever used oils because I didn't know. And I was used to painting with gouache at the time. I was over at a friend's house learning how to use oils. And I went to pour it down the drain and they were like, no, don't do it. And I had already started pouring a little bit. And that's bad news. Bad news bears. Oil and water do not mix. It does bad things when it gets in them pipes. I love the way that oils paint, and I love like the effects you can do with oils, but yeah, the cleanup is too much for me. I've gotten used to the ease of gouache. Gouache is just so like pick up and go. But at some point I would like to get a little pochade of oils and do some plein air painting. Because in a lot of YouTube videos that I watch, it looks very nice. Just to have the little box out in the wilderness, set it up with an easel, and do a little bit of painting on the go. You know, I haven't done a lot with casein, and I would love to do more. The James Gurney videos, I have his video, I bought the one on Gumroad about painting with casein. I think it's called Casein in the Wild. And it's a wonderful video. And casein is so interesting to me because it has that acrylic property of sealing the surface. So if anything, I would love to get some casein in to do some sealed pages so that I can paint over top of them. Because I absolutely love the way that it looks. Okay, so it's time to take our little brush once again, but now we're going to mix a shadow color. Actually, I'm going to mix it with a bigger brush because it is truly a nightmare. Nightmare is strong, but it's a lot to mix any colors with the little rigging brush. It struggles tremendously. I'm going to mix just a light shadow color because the church is further back than the trees, so I don't want the shadow color to be darker than what I have on these trees here, especially for the little shadows. Now I do need a darker color, so I'm going to mix a few of my darks together. Now I need to do a road sign post. That off with. Every time I go back, I keep seeing stray hairs. There we go. I do a bit of a sketch at first with a water-soluble pencil, so I can get rid of any lines that I don't want in the final. But a lot of my decision-making is done in the painting process, not in the sketching process. For sketching, I mostly like to block in forms. Get all the big stuff in line. All right, let's add those deep, dark shadows to the bottom corner, and then we're going to call this one done. All right. So let's go ahead and take the tape off this beast. I'm going to go around the back. The mega tape peel. Usually don't do ones this big. My new rolls of tape came in today. Very, very happy about that. I got the big jumbos. For those who are curious, I use these Scotch blue painter's tape. Got 2 rolls, which should last me a very long time. My last paint roll lasted a very long time. I was somewhat wasteful today. For some reason, on a new roll, I can never really gauge how long the tape is. And also, it's a big painting. All right. Try to get this one. There it is. And now we've got some room down at the bottom of this lovely painting to do a little signature. Today is the 3rd of August. My gosh, summer's almost over, y'all. It's nice to do a big painting like this and have ample room to sign it. Sometimes I'm just really cramped down at the bottom. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today. As always, it was a huge pleasure. Love to get out the paints and mess around. We'll be back on Thursday for Copic Thursdays, so if you want to come back and hang out again, that's what we'll be doing. The show where you choose the colors that I use, and then I gotta make something with those colors. So I'll see you then. Take it easy, stay cool, or warm, depending on where you are. Have a great evening, /morning, whatever it is, wherever you are. Archives are over on the YouTube, youtube.com/EiffelArt. And I will see you on Thursday. Bye, everybody.